Welcome to Hello Unknown, a podcast exploring the hidden parts of the human experience. I'm Jonathan Wright. Today, the song Sleep to Dream Her by Dave Matthews Band. Before I get to the unknown, here's something I do know, that you probably hate Dave Matthews Band. They have a reputation, mostly as a middle-of-the-road, crunchy granola, drunk frat boy band. But I've heard worse. I've heard much worse, mostly from my brothers-in-law, who are real hipsters. They play blues and folk and make experimental sounds with Moog 37 paraphonic synthesizers, and one has a feather earring. You know, but he doesn't wear it very often. Anyway, my point is that, to put it politely, they think Dave Matthews Band sucks, so who am I to say otherwise? But fear not. This episode isn't just about Dave Matthews Band. It's also about one of their worst songs. One Reddit user had this to say in a comment about Sleep to Dream Her, quote, "I'm not a fan of this one," end quote. And on the Ants Marching Dave Matthews Band, or DMB fan forum, user Beefsteak1138, subnamed Eat Ass and Sell Drugs. I'll just leave that with you. Anyway, this esteemed user numbers Sleep to Dream Her in his bottom 5 to 10 DMB songs. I don't even think Dave likes it. In an article from 2018 with the DMB setlist for a show at the Schottenstein Center in Columbus, Ohio, it notes that they finally played Sleep to Dream Her after a gap of 413 shows. There's lots to hate, and I'll get to that, I promise. But for me, I deeply resonate. Dave Matthews Band was formed in 1991 in Charlottesville, Virginia, with drummer Carter Beauford, bassist Stefan Lessard, and saxophonist Leroy Moore. They were joined a little later by their violinist Boyd Tinsley. They began, like any other band, by jamming in Beauford's mother's basement. But whatever your feelings about them, they had chemistry. And this chemistry was recognized first in a real way at a club called Tracks in Charlottesville. I like this image. A fresh-faced Dave growling into the mic, acoustic in hand. The young band playing blues fusion. Sweating crowds. Proto-hipsters with khakis and plaid and no feather earrings. College kids with Bugle Boy jeans and 2 large Gap t-shirts. That was their start. They had a residency at Tracks, a recurring show every Tuesday night. And every Tuesday night, they'd sell out the venue. That was how they built their following, through playing live. Boyd Tinsley later said they just got in the van and started hitting colleges all over Virginia and then the Southeast. And it worked. They were popular long before they were signed to a label. And because of this, when they did land with RCA, their albums were hits, almost instantly. First, Under the Table and Dreaming in 94, then in 96, Crash, and then Before These Crowded Streets in 1998, featuring Alanis Morissette. Which brings us, just about, to Sleep to Dream Her and the album Every Day from 2001. There's this thing about art. To those who don't create, or don't create much, it might seem sort of natural. If you have the talent, that's a big if, but if you have it, the art is supposed to flow out of you. Fully formed, beautiful, engaging, fun, funny. All the things it's supposed to be. Even if you know this isn't true, though, you may not understand it, like viscerally. That art is, fundamentally, it's this wrestling with blankness. The silence of the unwritten song, the white page, the empty canvas. There's a psychologist, Rollo May, who wrote this really great book called The Courage to Create. In it, he writes this about making art. He says, "We are called upon to do something new, to confront a no man's land, to push into a forest where there are no well-worn paths and from which no one has returned to guide us. This is what the existentialists call the anxiety of nothingness." I know really well the anxiety of nothingness. And so did Dave. The song Sleep to Dream Her is ostensibly about a woman and the narrator and unrequited love, but the song, which poses as a love song, is not really a love song at all. It starts with a plucky guitar riff, a little too sparse, the singing a little constipated, and you notice as you listen that there's no real chorus. Instead, the song releases into the saxophone, ringing percussion, a kind of catharsis for the impotence of the narrator. I know I'll miss her later, it begins. Wish I could bend my love to hate her. Wish I could be her creator, to twist her arms now. Yeah, not a love song. I don't care that the next line is about the stars falling from her hair. This is about a man who wants something and can't get it. She's blind, he says. She holds my heart so tightly, but can't see me at all. The song's not about the woman either. Not really. It's about what the narrator feels when he approaches the void this woman's left him in, this darkness, romanticizing, fantasizing, and more importantly, it's about how he chooses to deal with it. The lyrics are sappy, wingless dreams falling earless, But here's how it ends, similar to how it began. I know I'll miss her later. Wish I could bend my love to hate her. Wish I could be her creator, to be the light in her eyes. He doesn't want to love her. He approaches the woman as an object and says, I want to create you. I don't want the darkness, the fear, the sadness, the complexity. I want to control you, or else I want to hate you. I get it. There's something I've wanted very badly, ever since I was a child. It was to be a writer. I wrote a lot, and I imagined a lot when I was a kid. And as I grew older, I started writing these little short stories and plays. And then when I was 21, I began a novel, which at the time was about a man in an ancient city who finds and raises a child who is left for dead, and also a genie, except I stopped writing before I got to the genie, so who knows. I went to work at a summer camp, and the urge to write died off just a little. But I did continue. I kind of dipped in and out for years. There were long stretches of time I didn't make the space for it. But then about 6 or 7 years ago, I started again on that novel I'd begun when I was 21, and it was extremely hard. The hardest part was time. I had a goal, and the goal was what mattered to me, and I was a lawyer by then, and I didn't have a lot of time for this side project. And so I'd write, and then I'd have to stop, and there would be this almost physical pain I felt when there was a lull in my work, and my mind turned back to whatever hook I'd left myself on in the story, whatever problem I needed to resolve and wasn't able to. And what's, I think, interesting and also important is that it wasn't just painful because I found it pure joy to write. A lot of the time, maybe even most of the time, I hated it. You might understand this if you've tried some form of art. I'd write and be very excited. I'd think it was amazing, the next Salman Rushdie, and the next day I'd read what I'd written and think to myself, this is bad. And so I'd go through these cycles of joy and despair, and the despair would last much longer. In any one moment, I couldn't have what I really wanted, or what I thought I wanted, which was perfection, or being published, or, and this is embarrassing, fame, maybe. It was all dreams, romanticizing, fantasizing, all trying to fill the darkness, trying to control the creative process, loving it, or saying I did, and hating it at the same time. You see where I'm going? Wish I could bend my love to hate her. Wish I could be her creator. Here are my two false idols in facing the blankness of the white page. The first is talent, as if talent were purely innate. If only I had talent, this would be easier, I'd think, as if talent wasn't a muscle I had to work on, lifting the weight and putting it down, and lifting and putting it down over and over again. The second idol is the end goal, whatever that might be in the moment, just finishing or getting published or becoming famous, loved or admired by everyone or everyone that matters. It's really easy for me to confuse the joy of creating with dreaming about the end reward, but they're so different. One's about being, and the other's about control. And I know, it's just art. But for me, I think it shows real courage to be willing to do this, to set aside goals and perfection and self-criticism and just write, or paint, or make experimental sounds with Moog 37 paraphonic synthesizers, whatever it is for you. It shows courage because you have to leave the safe place, but you can't really know where you're going. In his book, Rollo May writes about this kind of conscious courage. He says we must be fully committed, but we must also be aware at the same time that we might possibly be wrong. My novel might be beautiful, or it might be garbage, but there's only one way to create something true and good, and that's hand in hand with the unknown. After their third album, For These Crowded Streets, Dave Matthews started writing a new one, assisted by the band's longtime producer, Steve Lillywhite. They bought their own studio in their hometown, Charlottesville, called Haunted Hollow, and they dove in. But Dave was in a dark place. He was suffering from depression, he was drinking a lot, and the songs were getting nowhere, so they stopped. The band decided to scrap the album and part ways with Lillywhite and try their hand in California instead with a producer named Glenn Ballard, a pop guy best known for working with Alanis Morissette and Aerosmith. One reviewer said the choice of Ballard for Dave Matthews was like chasing down that granola bar with a can of Jolt. Apparently, it worked. Ballard put an electric guitar in Dave's hands, not Dave's thing before then, and he wrote 9 new songs in 10 days. And the album? It was very bad. Rolling Stone called Everyday the dead center of the mainstream. They meant it as a compliment somehow, but, Entertainment Weekly had worse to say. Among other things, they said Dave seemed to be making up lyrics as he went along. And a Slant article pointed out our song, Sleep to Dream Her, saying it fell flat with typical music arrangements and uninspired vocals. But he did it. He created. He looked into the darkness and somehow made form and order. And what's more, it turns out the album he wrote when he was struggling in his darkest place, the one they scrapped for Everyday, it was actually pretty good. After Everyday, they reproduced it, changed some of the songs, and it came out in July of 2002 as Busted Stuff. I'm long past my Dave Matthews Band phase, but I'm listening to a live version of Bartender, the big song on Busted Stuff, recorded in Boulder, Colorado. I'm listening right now as I write, and it's giving me chills again. I admit it, just like it did when I first listened nearly 15 years ago. I'm going to cut Dave some slack. And as for me, I'm still here. Novel's done. Most details have changed from version 1, but it's still about a man in an ancient city and a boy who the man finds and raises as his own. Except in this version, no genie. Instead, the boy runs away, out of the city, across the river, and into the unknown. There's only one theme in my life, apparently. And in this new room, I have a new darkness to wrestle with. This time trying to find an agent and eventually a publisher for my little book, which, honestly, is just about as hard as writing the thing. But I'm also still creating, like Dave. For now, I've put down the acoustic guitar of the novel and picked up the electric, the podcast. I hope this episode is better than Sleep to Dream Her, but in the end, whether it's good or bad or somewhere in between, that's not what matters. Instead, I'm stepping out with courage into the unknown and creating. Our episode today is written and produced by me, Jonathan Wright. More production and editing, along with the music, is by Taylor Swindells of Neighborhood Libraries. Special thanks for help with this episode to Drew Gilmore, Maddie Lee, Jared Ing, and Ian Wright. If you like what you heard today, you can help us. You know how, of course. Rate and review, please. And, Taylor and I aren't getting paid for this, so if the spirit moves you, you can contribute financially to our Patreon at patreon.com/hellounknown. And as a bonus, you'll get immediate access to all 6 episodes in Season 1. Finally, if you have suggestions for new episodes or any comments, you can email us at hellounknownpod@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us at hellounknownpod. We'd love to hear from you. And as a final postscript, a word about Trax, the nightclub where Dave Matthews Band got its break. In 2001, the year Everyday came out, the club shut down. And in July of 2002, it was purchased by the University of Virginia for $1.2 million. Before it finally closed its doors, the club had begun to experiment, showing not only live music, as it did in the sweaty Dave Matthews days, But, in the words of Rollo May, being fully committed to their art and also aware at the same time that they might possibly be wrong, they dove headlong into semi-pro wrestling. Episode 4 of 6 is coming in 2 weeks this time. Please subscribe and you won't miss it. Thank you for listening.